Daniel Reyes has $5,000 and roughly 10 to 15 hours a week outside his full time logistics job. He's comparing 5 ways to spend that money on a business and trying to work out using real numbers which one gives him the best odds under his specific constraints. $5,000, 5 options, each one has genuine strengths, each one has genuine risks. None of them is inherently better than the others. The right choice depends entirely on who is making it and what resources they're starting with. Equipment costs run approximately $1,800 to $2,500. Per job pricing could realistically range from $80 to $200 depending on the vehicle and service level among the higher per transaction margins of the 5 options. The trade-off: local markets are often already served by retailers with established reputations, which can make early customer acquisition harder. And because the business relies on Daniel's own physical labor, income stops if he's unable to work. For someone with more physical stamina, an existing local reputation, or a need for immediate cash flow, this option could rank higher than it does for Daniel. Business 2, a residential cleaning service. Startup cost is lower, roughly $600 to $1,200. Standard pricing might run $100 to $180 per visit. Unlike detailing, this business can scale beyond one person's hours by eventually hiring additional cleaners. The trade-off: building the trust required for repeat, in-home clients, tends to take months rather than weeks, and early revenue is typically inconsistent while that trust is established. There is a real upside though. Unlike detailing, this business could eventually scale past what Daniel's own hours allow, hiring a second cleaner, then a third. He underlines that it's the first option on the list that isn't capped by his personal time alone. Still, it's slow to start. He moves to the third option: digital products. On paper, this is the lightest option. An ebook, a template pack, a small course, a simple digital tool sold through a basic website. Startup costs could be as low as $500 to $1,000 for the site, design, software, and some initial advertising. Most of the $5,000 could stay in his account. For a moment, it looks like the answer. No inventory, no physical labor. Build it once, and in theory, it can keep selling without much additional effort. Then, the catch shows up. The one Daniel almost overlooked. A product doesn't sell itself just because it exists. Digital products depend heavily on traffic, and Daniel has no existing audience. No following, no email list, no one already waiting to buy. Without one, he's either paying for ads with no guarantee they convert, or spending months building an audience with little to no income in the meantime. It has the highest theoretical scalability on his list, but it also carries a meaningful risk of spending money before he knows whether customers will actually buy. He leaves it on the notepad with a question mark next to it, because so much of its potential depends on something he doesn't have yet. Fourth, a niche online store built around one specific category of physical product. Startup costs vary sharply depending on the model. Holding inventory upfront could cost $2,500 to $4,000 on stock, packaging, and a storefront, a significant portion of the $5,000, with real risk if the product doesn't sell. There's a lower risk version too, print on demand or drop shipping, where nothing is made or shipped until a sale happens. That could bring the upfront cost down to around $800 to $1,500. Less risk, but thinner margins, since a third party handles manufacturing and shipping and takes a share for it. Either way, the challenge circles back to the same place: getting people to actually find the store, usually through paid advertising, while competing against larger stores with bigger ad budgets. By this point, a pattern is hard to ignore. In several of these options, it isn't the startup cost that puts the business at risk. It's the difficulty of finding the first paying customers. That observation leads him to the fifth option: A freelance service business using AI tools to work more efficiently, things like content writing, basic video editing, simple automation setup, or social media management for small businesses. The idea isn't that AI brings in clients on its own. It's a productivity tool that could let Daniel handle more work in his limited hours. The startup cost here is the lowest of the five, a few $100s for software subscriptions and a simple portfolio site. Nearly all of the $5,000 could stay untouched. Client acquisition still isn't easy. Daniel would need to reach out directly to small businesses, pitch on freelance platforms, or rely on referrals. None of that happens automatically. AI can speed up the work once a client is signed. It doesn't replace the work of finding one. Early income is likely modest, potentially a few $100s a month per small client, and any growth would depend on how many clients Daniel can realistically manage within his available hours. It's unlikely to scale as quickly as a digital product might in theory. But it doesn't require an existing audience to begin, and a slow month here costs him almost nothing, compared to unsold inventory sitting in a garage. 5 options. 1 notepad. Daniel lays them out. Detailing, a moderate startup cost and decent pay per job, but the business depends entirely on his physical ability to show up. Cleaning, lower equipment cost and real long-term scalability, but months of slow trust building before it becomes steady income. Digital products, minimal physical cost, and the highest ceiling on the list, alongside the highest risk of spending money before knowing if there's a market. Online store, meaningful upfront risk if he holds inventory, thinner margins if he plays it safer, and still dependent on advertising either way to find buyers. Freelance AI-assisted services, the smallest startup cost by a clear margin, the most of the $5,000 left as a cushion, and income that starts small but doesn't require anything Daniel doesn't already have. For Daniel specifically, a full-time job, 10 to 15 hours a week, no existing audience, no client list, the numbers lean toward the freelance service option. Not because it has the highest ceiling, it doesn't. Digital products and a growing cleaning business both carry more theoretical upside over several years. He leans toward it because it leaves him the most room to be wrong. Room to test pricing, make mistakes, and look for his first clients without running out of money before he learns what actually works. That reasoning is worth sitting with because it runs against a lot of the general advice around starting a business, advice that tends to point toward the biggest opportunity or the fastest possible growth. None of these 5 businesses is objectively the best choice. Each could work, each could fail, depending on the market, the person running it, and factors that are hard to predict in advance. The lesson here is narrower than that, and more specific to Daniel's situation. The smartest use of $5,000 isn't necessarily the business with the largest possible payoff. It's the one that fits the time someone actually has, the risk they can genuinely afford to take, and gives that money enough runway to survive the slow, uncertain process of finding the first real customer. Because the more useful question was never how much could this make. It was how much can I afford to risk before I know whether anyone wants what I'm selling. $5,000 can buy equipment, inventory, advertising, or software. But the smartest use of it might be the part you choose not to spend until you already have a customer.